Hey, hello everybody, and welcome to Let Them Play. I'm your host, Tony Fiorino, and it is Sunday, January 9th, and hey, it's 2011. You guys missed me? I was gone for a couple of weeks. I hope you enjoyed your holidays with your families and are ringing in the new year. First off, I don't really want to, but I guess I got to congratulate our own New York Jets for pulling off a nice little upset in pretty good fashion last night. I really thought for sure that Manning had sealed the fate, but he left a little too much time on the clock. But in any event, hey, welcome back to the show, everybody. You know, we took a couple of weeks off, and let's face it, you know, what I want to do today is throughout the show, we're going to revisit some of your favorite and some of your most hated moments from the past year, 2010. We covered a lot last year, and it seems that for every great story, there was maybe one or two that just left you scratching your head. So we'll be taking your calls at 914-693-5700 to get your opinions on your most and your least favorite shows from last year. And who knows, maybe you wanted to say something at the time and didn't get through to us, or perhaps there may have been a new development in the story that you want to share with us. So feel free to call us. The number again, 914-693-5700. Let us know what you think. And remember, as always, if you're having trouble getting through on the studio lines, you can email me your thoughts at heycoachtony@gmail.com. Now, in the process, if you want to go back and look at some of the various topics we covered last year, you can take a look at the archived shows up on the blog, which is at www.heycoachtony.com. So check it out, pick your favorite topic, and give us a call here in the studio. We'll be taking your calls and your emails on these various topics throughout the show. But while we're waiting for your calls, I do want to get to a story that comes to us from Indianapolis, where last week there was yet another ridiculous lawsuit being filed by a couple of moronic parents. Now get this. If you remember, just before Christmas, I did a show on a group of kids in Syracuse who were protesting the punishments received for alcohol abuse in their school's code of conduct. And this is even though these folks willingly and knowingly signed and agreed to this code themselves. Now, on the very same Syracuse blog, I just learned that the parents of a junior high school basketball player in Indianapolis basically they say that his former team's haircut policy is unconstitutional. What's more, there are folks up on this Syracuse blog who are defending this kid and his parents. I mean, what the hell? What is in the drinking water up in Syracuse? But let me get to the basis of the story, and then we'll take your calls at 914-693-5700. Patrick and Melissa Hayden filed a lawsuit against their 14-year-old son's school in U.S. District Court in Indianapolis last week. The Haydens say that their son was kicked off the Greensburg junior high school team for refusing to cut his hair. Coach Stacy Meyer apparently requires that the players keep their hair above their ears, above their eyebrows, and above their collar to maintain a clean-cut image. The school's policy for athletes prohibits any hairstyles which, and I quote, create problems of health and sanitation, obstruct vision, or call undue attention to the athlete. Now, the quote here from the bottom-feeding scumbag lawyer is, what they're trying to do here is to teach their son a life lesson, which simply is that you fight for what's right. And this is, again, according to the attorney Ron Frazier, and he told this to the Indianapolis Star. This is classic David versus Goliath, and they want their son to understand that. Well, you know what? It's not classic David versus Goliath. This is classic ambulance-chasing loser who's looking for a nickel from an institution that has some deep pockets. Well, in similar cases, matter of fact, a similar case back in 2003, and this was in Missouri, a federal judge decided that hair policies do not violate the rights of student athletes. And the reasoning behind this is playing sports, as we've said on the show 1,000 times, being part of a high school team is a privilege, not a right. Now, the school district in this case is pointing to that ruling in an attempt to defend its position, but I'm curious what you think. We got a couple of emails in on this, but we want to take your calls at 914-693-5700. And before we do get to the studio lines, we're going to go to our good buddy Jerry from White Plains, who writes in and says, "Hey, Coach Tony, I'll bet there are at least 100 kids in that school who would love to have this kid's spot on the team. If he can't play by the rules, too bad. His hair is not part of his religion, race, nor creed. Therefore, it's the coach's choice. You do not have the right to make a team, as many of your listeners have pointed out in the past. It's no different than me claiming that I have the right to wear nothing but long johns to work. Seriously, these frivolous lawsuits against schools are the reason our schools are becoming so ineffective. Teachers, administrators, and coaches cannot do their jobs because all regulations now are about not hurting the feelings of the kids that have failures for parents. Now, nobody's forcing this kid to play basketball for this team. If he doesn't want to cut his hair, he can play somewhere else. Obviously, the game doesn't mean much to the kid if he's going to allow a messy mop to prevent him from playing. Go play AAU, son, or join your local Y, someplace where you are not a representative of your school or your community. And as always, Jerry, great thoughts and very eloquently put. And I really couldn't agree with it much more than that. Again, this is all about the privilege of being on a scholastic team and the privilege of representing your school and your community. And, like I said, the kid really can't be much of a diehard if he doesn't feel like cutting his hair. Matter of fact, our producer here, Adam, just came in this morning sporting a nicely new coiffed head of hair, so he gets the message. FAS told him to get a haircut. He didn't complain about it. There's going to be a lot of opinions on this. I'm going to get your emails and your calls when we get back from break, but I do have to take a quick break. But before we do, folks, remember, it is now January, and it is middle of winter, and that means skiing and snowboarding at Catamount Family Ski Resort up in Hillsdale, New York. My kids and I have been going there forever. And, it's just so close to home. The trails are great. Matter of fact, my kids just had a school ski trip yesterday. It was powder. Skiing was great. The kids had a blast. And, in fact, I never realized there were ski gods. Instead of skiing Catamount last week, we were invited up to Okemo, and my kids and I went. And guess what? Coach Tony took a header like it was nobody's business. Cracked 2 ribs. I'm in agonizing pain. So while rib injuries really suck, let me tell you what, Percocet rocks. So I'm in bad pain, but I think Rich Edwards and his staff up at Catamount heard I was heading to Okemo, and they sent us some really crappy weather and lousy conditions. So if you're going to ski, just do it at Catamount, folks. Stick around. We'll be right back.